It's time to get brutal. Are the Indiana Fever just boring hoops without Caitlin Clark on the court? So I wasn't actually going to make this video, but you know what? I do kind of want to talk about it. This is not a doom and gloom, the Indiana Fever are going to suck forever video, because I don't think that. This is not a Steph White needs to get fired video, because we're not there yet. At least I'm not there yet. But this is more of a, wow, the Indiana Fever are just not fun to watch without Caitlin Clark. Now, there was a bit of an injection of energy when Aari McDonald did first come in. I think that there was a lot of like grace given to the fact that Caitlin Clark would be coming back, and it was just really nice to see the Indiana Fever get to play a little faster pace, to see some decent playmaking done, because in the 2 games previous to Aari McDonald coming into the Indiana Fever, it was kind of scary, and they were looking like possibly one of the worst teams in the entire league. Now, I don't want to put everything on Caitlin Clark, because Sophie Cunningham is also out, and you know, Sophie Cunningham, they did play without Caitlin Clark in that first preseason game where Sophie Cunningham did come in off the bench, injected a lot of energy, got the crowd revved up. She kind of became like the X Factor, and she was like somebody who I thought would be the X Factor for the Indiana Fever. Kind of looks like that's a little bit more Lexi Hole now, but Lexi Hole wasn't exactly doing anything on the court last night either. And I think we're beyond the team needs to develop chemistry phase, because I have been watching the Golden State Valkyries, and the Golden State Valkyries to me have been the funnest team to watch actually in the entire league for most of the season since Caitlin Clark has been out. So who knows how the Indiana Fever will look when she returns, but the Golden State Valkyries is a team, it's with everything new. Brand new coach, brand new facilities, brand new teammates playing together, just like the Indiana Fever. And the Indiana Fever have a team, they brought in all these vets that kind of understand what it's like to move around from team to team, that kind of understand what it's like to play under pressure. And the Golden State Valkyries they're not winning every game, but they are just so much fun to watch. So what is the difference? Like, what is it that Indiana Fever isn't doing? What is it that the Valkyries are doing? I'm of the opinion that it's the pacing. And I'm of the opinion that I think the risk and the strategy that the front office took in Indiana was to bring in a lot of vets, to put all this talent around Caitlin Clark. But really, like, what was so fun about watching the Indiana Fever last year was their run and gun, fast pace, like just drive the ball to the basket. And they are not doing that now. Listen, the Golden State Valkyries, they are below the Indiana Fever in defensive, offensive, net rating, and everything. But they are still more fun to watch. They are chucking threes. They aren't hitting them all, but they are taking a lot of threes. Now, again, I don't want this to be one of those like doom and gloom videos, so I will just run off some of the stats, because they're often, according to the WNBA Advanced Stats website, their offensive net rating comes in at number 5. Their defensive net rating comes in at number 3. So they have pumped up the defense quite significantly. Like, it doesn't look like it to the eye test, but it's still, they're still at number 3 behind the Minnesota Lynx and the New York Liberty. Now, their overall net rating is at number 3, which is, again, behind the Minnesota Lynx and behind the New York Liberty. So it's like kind of crazy when you look at these last few games. Now, saying that, I think that the blowout games that they've had against the Chicago Sky have really bumped up those stats a lot, because the Chicago Sky right now is a team in I wouldn't call it dire straits. They're a team searching for an identity. They have not been doing well, like not at all. So having 2 games against this team is a little misleading to how good they could actually be, because they haven't had a very rough start to the season. They have played some fairly easy teams, but so have the Minnesota Lynx and the New York Liberty. The Minnesota Lynx were given the 12th hardest team schedule, and the New York Liberty were given the 13th hardest team schedule of 13 games. So, and again, I don't know what the ranking for the Indiana Fever's schedule is, but you know, just looking at who they played, it has not been very difficult. But you know, last season, what everyone loved about the Indiana Fever was their pace. Last season, they came in second in pace in the entire league, and right now they come in at number 8. That is not a fun team to watch. Last night was not a fun team to watch. They were walking the ball up from full court, like taking their time to get to half court, whereas, you know, when there is a Caitlin Clark in the game, you know, she pushes that pace. She like runs up in transition. Last night they had 2 fast break points to Atlanta's 13. And some of the other stats, like in the paint, they were way outscored in the paint. They had 28 points in the paint to Atlanta's 46. They had, again, 2 fast break points to Atlanta's 13. Like the biggest lead was 21. They did out-rebound Atlanta, which is actually kind of crazy. They had 9 rebounds to Atlanta's 4. It is crazy considering that the Atlanta Dream have a Brittany Griner on the team. It wasn't crazy. The total turnovers were 11 to Atlanta's 13. Their points off turnovers were better than Atlanta's. They had 14. Lexi Hull in for 32 minutes, coming away with 0 points. This is the Lexi Hull that is like number 1 in a 3-point field goal percentage, and she attempted 3 of them last night, made none. She did have 5 rebounds, she had an assist, and she did have 2 steals, so it wasn't like she made 0 impact on the court, but she was a negative 13, so that's not that great. I mean, the highest scorer of the game was Natasha Howard, coming away with 15, and of course, Aari McDonald coming away with 14 points. But it's just Sid Colson, who they have coming in, running the point. She's starting for the Indiana Fever. And the reason that I think that they're having Sid Colson start is because Aari is on borrowed time. They know that they're going to have to let go of her. And it does not sound like they're going to bring her back. As much as, you know, it would be a great opportunity and great option to have Aari McDonald as the backup point guard. According to Chloe Peterson's article, and you know, Chloe Peterson is someone who talks to the general manager. She talks to Kelly Kroskoff. She talks to the Indiana Fever. And in her article, she had listed all the reasons why they should bring Bree Turner back, including Dantas being out for AmeriCup. So I am just assuming here that these are things that she is being told by the front office, and the front office want people to recognize the strategy that they're going with. Because Demiris Dantas is going to be out from the end of June until I think it's like early to mid-July. And I don't think they want to be stuck without a big in that area. But let's get back to Sydney Colson for a second, because everyone is wondering, why is Sydney Colson starting as the point guard? And I think that's because they want Sid Colson to be getting better and be getting more comfortable in that position. They did have Aari come in, and when Aari did come in, the game was a little faster paced. She did have 2 assists to Sid Colson's 1 assist. And I think the thing that I'm seeing that I'm not liking about Sid Colson is her predictability. She does not have the foresight to be this elite playmaker that, you know, Caitlin Clark does. Aari McDonald, I wouldn't call her an elite top point guard, but she is a point guard that can get it done. In what I noticed from last night in Sid Colson, and not only last night, but the way that Sid Colson passes, they're very predictable. And then sometimes she can't predict their moves. Like in one instance, Kelsey Mitchell was obviously going to cut, and then she passed the ball to Kelsey Mitchell while she was cutting, and it just went out of bounds. And, you know, another issue in the pacing of the Indiana Fever is the veterans. I don't like talking about this that much because I wanted DeWanna Bonner to succeed so much on this team, but I say this in other videos, but what I see in DeWanna Bonner is she's not fast. She's very hesitant. I think that she's in her head, and I see open looks. Even, you know, she is hitting shots. This is good. And I think that she is getting better. I don't think DeWanna Bonner is a terrible player. I think that she has the ability to, on a different team, be better than she is on this team, because this team wants to push the pace, and they're not pushing the pace. I think they're just like still kind of like flailing about with this identity, and I think they're doing a lot of testing out. Like Steph White is not running the same schemes in every game that she runs from the previous game. So it leads me to believe that she is still testing out a lot of things to see what sticks, what works, what type of chemistry this team can develop. So I'm not ready to completely write Steph White off yet. That being said, she really needs to pick up the pace with this team. This is, I understand that Sid Colson is not exactly that point guard to push the pace, but she needs to tell Sid Colson to push the pace. I mean, they're also just not setting good screens. There was one good screen I saw Leah Boston set last night, but like, wow, one good screen, like what a big deal. But they're not setting good screens. I knew that they weren't going to be running the pick and roll as much because Steph White said so when she said Caitlin Clark would be out. But Kelsey Mitchell, she is also just very streaky. And this is just one game because we have to remember Kelsey Mitchell was just named Player of the Week for the WNBA yesterday. So she had a couple really great games. It just so happened that last night she couldn't hit, in her own words, she couldn't hit a rock in the ocean. She went 5 for 16. She attempted 5 3-pointers and made none of them. And they did have Damiris Dantas come in early in the game because I kind of think because Aaliyah Boston, everybody's going to be gunning for Aaliyah Boston because Aaliyah Boston is one of the best players on the team. And so that's going to be a strategy for any other team to kind of neutralize Aaliyah Boston. So I think, and because Aaliyah Boston can get into foul trouble, I think that they had Damiris Dantas come in early, play low in the post so that Aaliyah Boston would not be getting into foul trouble in those like end of game stretches when they're, in a pinch or something so that she could be playing the full game. But, Damiris Dantas didn't really look great in that position. And I don't think Damiris Dantas is a great defending down low under the basket post player. I think Damiris Dantas is a great big that spreads the floor. She's like a stretch 4-5. And Natasha Howard, I have been very on the fence about Natasha Howard. The thing is she has been pretty solid. So she has been putting up the points. She was a high scorer of the team last night. And she very often puts these like mid-teen scoring points up in every game. And before I fully form an opinion about Natasha Howard, I do want to see how she plays when Caitlin Clark is back. Because I think Natasha Howard could be one of the players, just like Aaliyah Boston, whose performance very much relies on the playmaking of Caitlin Clark. Aaliyah Boston, she has had good games without her, and she's had some really bad games without Caitlin Clark. But we all know that with Caitlin Clark, that duo is one of the best duos in the WNBA. And I think that the reason the Golden State Valkyries are just so fun to watch, as I stated earlier, they have the energy. They're not winning every games, and it doesn't seem to matter. I've noticed that when the Golden State Valkyries start a game, they may start out slower, but their momentum builds and the energy builds and they start going faster the more the game plays out. And that has a lot to do with the youth of the team as opposed to the older players on the Indiana Fever. And in combination with a lot of the coaching strategies that I think Steph White is doing. I think Steph White, God bless her, she's going through a lot right now and with family issues. So, we also have to keep that in mind, but she has to push the pace with the Indiana Fever because it doesn't matter if they're winning or losing. I think that right now, we shouldn't be too worried about the team. I think when Caitlin Clark gets back, give her a few games, that's when we really should be thinking about where is the team going to end up. But right now, I'm just concerned that they're just really boring to watch. They're not a fun team to watch. With the pacing that they're running and with the older veterans not being able to keep up necessarily. Just to give you an idea, the Golden State Valkyries, to me, one of the funnest teams to watch. Their offensive rating is way down at number 11. Their defensive rating actually is pretty good. It's at number 6. But their total net rating is at number 10. So again, this is not a high team. But let's see what they are in pace. In pace, they're number 4. They are fun because they are near the top in pacing, which is actually kind of crazy because the Chicago Sky is at number 2 and the Dallas Wings are at number 3. But I think that but the Chicago Sky and the Dallas Wings, they had those 2 back-to-back games where they played each other, which were actually really fun games to watch. So that has a lot to do with where they rank defensively. They were just going back and forth. It was a shootout in both games. And, it's because that those 2 teams, they're on even playing fields, but they're bad teams. They're just on even playing fields. So the games looked good when they played against each other. But you know, a lot of teams go through a few games of adversity. I think that it's been kind of difficult because after waiting so long to see the Indiana Fever hit the court again, there has been a lot of stagnation and a lot of things come up, a lot of adversity come up like so early in the season. So it has a lot of people just kind of down on the Indiana Fever. But I think you have to like remember that, you know, Caitlin Clark will be coming back. Caitlin Clark is cinema and she does uplift teams like nobody that I've ever seen. I mean, from college, from the Iowa days, like a very mid Iowa team. She brought up those people. She brought up Kate Martin to be the player that she is now on the Valkyries. Like Kate Martin is looking so good on the Valkyries lately. She is the offensive playmaker for the Indiana Fever, and things are going to change. She does not like to play slow. She may try it out a bit, but eventually Caitlin Clark does kind of run the team, and she will be pushing the pace. So there might only be 1-2 more games without Caitlin Clark. So patience, I think right now, is the key. But I can't not call a spade at the same time and say that the Indiana Fever are a fun team to watch. But I, for one, just can't wait until she hits the court again.